Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of our podcast. Today we're talking to Narayan Ramachandran, who heads tech solutioning for partners in India and Southeast Asia. Narayan's a good friend. He's worked with us very closely, and in today's podcast, we would be talking about what's upcoming in the world of Shopify, but largely we're covering topics like B2B, AI, going forward in Shopify, and store optimizations and what the ecosystem's talking about. So, welcome. Hope you like it, and yeah, jump right in. Hey guys, hi. Welcome to our podcast. I've got Narayan Ramachandran with us today. Narayan heads the partner solutioning for Shopify in India and Southeast Asia. He's been a phenomenal partner to Tenovia, so I've worked very closely with him over the years, and and a great guy to basically solve any problem in the Shopify world. Has helped loads of partners like us and merchants in the Shopify world as well. So welcome, Narayan. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Murali. Thanks for having me over for this podcast. I've been looking forward to this, and we finally get to do this.
Yeah, excited.
Excited, right?
So Narayan, tell us a little bit about your journey. You've been with Shopify about 3 years now,
That's right. Yep.
right? And so tell us the journey uh, to this
Pre-Shopify.
point, pre Shopify, and then I will deep dive a lot about the Shopify field
Sure.
as well. But what led to this?
Yeah. So right out of college, right, I started out as a Java developer, and I did work on quite a few technologies and frameworks, mostly front end, including React and Angular. I also had a little bit of exposure into mobile app development. But then after about 5 years of doing a lot of development, I kind of wanted to pivot into customer facing roles, semi technical roles, because I always felt that I was good in front of customers. I had this flair for solving problems for customers. So that's when I got an opportunity to join this startup based in Chennai called Freshworks, where I was a product
When it was a
consultant.
startup.
When it was a startup, right? It's not a startup anymore. Right. So, yeah, that was back in 2016 when I was a product consultant there. I worked with clients across regions, including Europe, Southeast Asia, Middle East, etc. After about 3 years, I had this opportunity to kind of venture into partnerships. So that was my initiation into that function, right? So it was a great opportunity to kind of build a partnerships team from scratch where we grew the network of partners from literally 0 to 40. So that was a great learning experience for me. And that kind of kindled the interest in me to work closely with partners. Fast forward to 2022 is when I joined Shopify. I've been here for about 3 years, but it definitely feels a lot longer than that. But it's been a fun ride here working with incredible partners like Tenovia. I've
Thanks.
been handling partners in India and Southeast Asia, working with them on enablement and solving merchant use cases together. That's the most exciting part for me.
Hey, so in the last 3 years, right, and where we've been also closely associated with Shopify, and Shopify has the landscape has changed as well, right? So Shopify has kind of evolved very aggressively worldwide, taken a lot of market share in the e-com platform space. So what are the big things that you've seen in those 3 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the last 2 to 3 years that I've been with Shopify, I think I've seen Shopify make tremendous strides in the way that it empowers merchants to create meaningful businesses. Right. So today Shopify is better than ever. It's faster than ever. It's high converting, and I think there are a lot of factors that contribute to this. Right. But if you ask me, one of the major reasons why we've seen this tremendous growth in the last 3 to 5 years is because of the unwavering focus on the mission of the company, which is making commerce better for everyone every day. Right. So we've been kind of historically known to be this company which has helped SMBs and first-time entrepreneurs to basically help them sell online, right? To be fair, we do a great job of that even today. But in the last few years, we have expanded into areas where we are really helping these global brands and large enterprises. Areas such as B2B, omni-channel selling across marketplaces, across social channels, cross-border and international expansion, retail through our POS offering. So all of these areas. So we are stronger than ever, and we are really on the map today. And as we are talking today, I feel we are in the midst of this AI revolution. So, what I'm particularly excited about is how this all plays out for Shopify in the next 5 to 10 years, right? We've already started embracing AI and incorporating it as part of our offering. I think we'll talk about that in detail in a bit of time. So, that's the exciting part for me. So, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. So, we, being a partner, we've seen Shopify release new innovations every 6 months in something called editions, right? Which are the actual official releases, and the number what we've noticed is that if you just go back even 3 editions, I mean the number of releases, I think in the last edition was about maybe 60. The last edition or the previous edition before this release had about 80 releases. We counted, and this one had about 150 odd releases. Right, it was almost like 2x more. So it sounds like the innovation engine is really working within Shopify, and the release just happened about maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks back. So what are the things that you're most excited about this particular release that's just rolled out 2-3 weeks back?
Yeah. I think you rightly pointed out that with this editions, we did release like 150 plus updates, and I think we've kind of been averaging around 80 to 100 in each of these editions in the past, right? So if you remember, the winter 24 editions was themed after foundations, right? Where we really wanted to set our foundations and basics, right? So that we can build on top of it, right? So we did that. And I think as an effect of that is where we are seeing a lot of features being built on top of it. So when you get the base right, it's easy for features to be shipped faster, and even features for kind of meaningfully interact with each other and offer this unified commerce solution, which is what we are really striving to achieve, right?
So let me pause you there. So you speak about this unified commerce piece, right? Now, second time you bring it up, and I think it's a good point to just talk about what that vision means for Shopify, or how Shopify looking at unified commerce, because it still means different things for different people who might be listening.
Right. So I think it can still, lead to different interpretations for even folks within Shopify. But what I feel is that we have different channels in which customers reach out to us. There's a popular saying where customers spend time is where they spend their money, right? So it's really important for us to understand where the customer is coming from. They can discover you somewhere, but then they can end up making purchase somewhere else, right? So it's far more important for us to kind of gather the data to have this one unified view of a customer, so that you can truly understand what the customer wants from the brand, and kind of send out these targeted campaigns, all of those, right? So how does Shopify facilitate bringing everything together, multiple channels together, getting that 360 view of the customer to facilitate a true unified commerce solution is what we are doing. For example, let's say a customer walks into a retail store, places an order there. How do you kind of propagate this information to the common backend, so that when the customer then logs in onto the online store, what the customer has purchased back there at the retail store, and then can offer complementing products, relevant products, right? So you kind of nudge the customer to make that second purchase when he or she comes into a different channel. So I think that is what we are aiming for, kind of tying all of these features together, because they all work amazingly well in silos, but bringing them all together is what unified commerce is all about. That's my take.
Got it. And sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking about the what's exciting for you about the addition of the
Right.
foundations leading to the
Yeah.
unified commerce, but yeah, back to you.
Yeah, I think with this editions, we call it the boring editions, but it's anything but boring if you
Yeah.
ask me. We have so many features that have been shipped, but what we strive to do with these editions was that while with each editions we say that, hey, these are like 100 epic new features that we have rolled out. This time we didn't want to do that. We said, we are fixing tech debts. We are fixing bugs to make sure that the features work really seamlessly with each other, and we are kind of optimizing, kind of improving the operation. So this was the core objective of this is, so these are minor improvements, but then they are quality of life improvements, right? So there are so many features which were in dev preview which are now available in GA for merchants to make use of, right? For example, Sidekick, which was announced in one of the previous editions, is now being rolled out in a phased manner in these editions. Then we talked about how you can build extensibility on the self-serve portal, right? So you can completely customize. You can build a full-page application on the self-serve portal. Get loyalty reward point information displayed to the buyer so that they can redeem it in the subsequent purchases. So things like this, right? This is how you truly make buying self-serve on Shopify. So things like these are the ones that are exciting. And then there is, of course, you have a custom analytics. So analytics and reports, they've gone through a lot of revamp with this. If you've noticed, you see a completely new dashboard. It's super customizable. You can basically play around with the layouts. You can have the information that is most relevant for a business, for a merchant. So all of these, I think, are minor improvements, but then they're going to go a long way in terms of improving the quality of life for merchants.
So if I let's double click on some of these, right? So it's about maybe a couple of editions back, you guys brought out around. So cataloging is a key part, right? Is the essential aspect of the whole discovery piece, right? So and you had some interesting updates which you launched with just the variance mapping and all that, right? So
Yeah.
so if you can just tell what was different, and that led to more discovery related stuff with AI.
I
Sidekick
think
as
that's a really great point that you brought up. I think this was a couple of editions back in winter 24, where 23, not exactly, right. So where we announced that we are addressing this long standing merchant frustration around the 100 variant limit, right? A lot of large brands who had so many SKUs, so many options, were not able to, go beyond 100 variants per product. Of course, there were workarounds existing even at that point. Like you could treat a variant as a product, you could use tags, meta fields, all of these, but these were not foolproof solutions, right? They were workaround at the end of the day. So I think we listened to this frustration and we announced that we are extending the 100 limit to up to 2000 variants per product, right? So
enough.
Yeah, right. So I think this kind of was a huge unblock. It opened a lot of possibilities and we could just get rid of the workaround. So this is in terms of how you can create and manage variants on the storefront. The second aspect of it is how do you merchandise this, right? So that's where, alongside this update, we also had another important rollout, which was called the Combined Listings app, if you remember. So one of the key requirements from a lot of buyers and merchants as well was that when they have so many, let's say, colors for a particular product, if they click on that, they'd want to see the product in that color. They want to see a video about that product in that particular color, right? So, and even from a merchant standpoint, they wanted unique URLs for each of the variant of the product. Let's say they are sending out targeted campaigns for a particular variant, for a particular, let's say, a red sweater. is on a campaign, you need to have a unique URL so that when they click on the URL, they're taken to that red variant of the
Correct.
Twitter.
Right.
Right? So earlier, all of these were not possible. So with combined listing app, we now have this kind of a parent-child kind of a hierarchy there, where each of the child products, which are the variants, can have their own description, images, videos, URLs, SEO tags, all of these. So I think this again is a step towards better merchandising and discovery, of course.
Got it. So now, so if you just look at the complete top of the funnel, which is what we're talking about, the catalog, right? Now, so you guys have solved for variants, specific landing pages to specific variants. You have a AI sidekick which can actually power a lot of the descriptions and even create images for these product images as well, right? What else? So I think there is also the AI sidekick does the recommend. You can also pair it with a bunch of other
Yeah,
stuff.
there's recommendations also that is powered by
Smart
AI,
recommendations,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of definite movements in that space. In search, how are you guys? How do you guys look at search? I mean, this
Yeah, I think search
another key
is,
part of discovery there is, right? So
yeah, definitely. I think search has also gone through tremendous, uh, revamp in the last couple of years. So if you kind of look at search, we have our search and discovery app, right? And we are kind of rolling out a lot of features in terms of, the basic search features like auto completion, catching typos. All of those have always been available. But what we are doing right now is, when it comes to search, is how do we incorporate the AI element as part of search. So one of those is, how do you filter based on certain parameters? Like, for example, filter based on categories. And merchants now have the flexibility and capability to kind of even control the order in which you will
Correct.
show these,
Results,
right?
right.
The results, the sorted results. And these can be done either manually or
through an API.
through an AI, right? Like, so AI can also kind of look through this and then can suggest, hey, this is probably the right order in which you need to show these filters. So all of these around search is something that's coming up. The other aspect, not necessarily with search, but is also super powerful around the AI concept, is the dev AI assistant, right? A lot of merchants and partners aren't aware of this. So if you get into the development talk, right? So you will see the Shopify magic icon there. So when you click on it, a dev assistant pops up. So what you basically can do is, let's say if someone is new to writing queries using GraphQL API, right? So all they have to do is just key in what they want in plain English, and it automatically gives you. Right? So it's super helpful, easy for someone who's just getting started.
Yeah, so it gives you like a variant of what that would look like in a code language, right? Almost
Exactly.
like a no code thing, but from there you can figure it out.
Yeah, it basically gives you the exact queries. All you have to do is replace it with the, let's say you want to get the last 10 orders of a specific customer. All you have to do is get the query from the dev assistant and then replace it with the relevant customer ID. And you get the 10 orders of this particular customer. So it's as simple as that. So I think
that was fascinating to see, actually.
Yeah.
So, and that's also just more and more around this, the AI piece, which is assisting developers, assisting merchants, assisting partners to just reduce the time
100%.
to go live, all that, right? Okay, so I think that's, so the AI piece is one thing. Cataloging we spoke about. Let's talk about B2B. Right now, it kind of goes back to the unified commerce piece. So you guys have the online part. You guys now have a POS for the offline stores. What you were missing out was the trade piece, right?
That's correct.
And that's where B2B comes in. From a brand perspective, it kind of solves this. So how's and B2B is mega, right? Like it's anyways bigger than B2C in every country. India even much more so, right? So it's only about B2C is, I think, is about maybe 10% of the overall max, right, of the overall retail economy. The rest being handled by B2B. So we've been super excited about B2B. We're investing like crazy in that space with Shopify. And so tell us a little bit about how what are you seeing the landscape of B2B kind of evolve in the last 1 year since Shopify has made its foray into B2B
Yeah.
in India, right? Or globally?
Yeah, I think you made a lot of valid points here, especially in terms of the scale at which B2B is operating, right? If I remember the stats correctly, I think global e-commerce sales through B2B is estimated at some 7.7 or 7.8 trillion, which is like more than double of that of D2C, right?
Right.
And it's estimated to grow at what 15 to 18% year on year, right? And I think in the next few years, about 80% of e-commerce sales is of B2B e-commerce sales is going to be online, right? So
Say that again. In the next
uh,
8 years?
in the next few years, I guess around 5 years, 80% of the B2B sales is going to be online, right? So the
Wow, that's massive.
it's massive,
That's-
right?
yeah.
So the opportunity is right in front of us, and if we don't tap it, I think we are going to lose a lot of money on the table,
Correct,
right? So I think that's exactly where Shopify is also heading. We are investing a lot into B2B. And if you even have observed the additions, the features that we have rolled out, B2B is one of the areas where we have rolled out the most number of updates, right? I think we can quote a lot of examples from our own merchant
Correct.
interactions.
Right. That was fascinating to see, actually, because I think we asked you for one merchant in India who also does business in Germany had a certain request. I think we our dev lead I think asked put in this request to you, and we saw it roll out as a feature in December.
Yeah.
Right. So and at that point, I think you said that this is not so much of a not too many people have asked for this, right? Because we were really pleasantly surprised that
Yeah.
that whole innovation engine of listening to customer feedback globally is coming in and coming back to
Yeah, I think that's a great example of how Shopify loves to listen to what's happening on the ground and just not stop at listening and gathering that feedback, but actually actioning on it, right? But going back to this B2B example, right? I think what you're talking about is the customer or company account request where you wanted to have like the
tax
ability to
exemption.
attach a tax
Yeah.
exemption
Yeah.
and also the ability to attach files as part of
Correct.
uh,
Or the onboarding part.
registration
Yeah.
form, right? So yeah, I think those were rolled out as part of the previous editions, right? Yeah, I think with B2B, what we are seeing is that uh, while this opportunity is massive, where I feel Shopify is differentiating itself from the rest of the others is that on two fronts, right? These are two observations that we have seen. One is uh, the B2B buyer today wants a highly personalized and customizable shopping experience, similar to what they're used to in the D2C world. Right? So this means that the B2B merchants, they need to invest in the right technology, go digital to make sure that the strategies are right and facilitate this kind of D2C like buying experience for B2B as well. And this is where Shopify can actually come in their aid, right? Because we have been known as this D2C first platform, and we have had vast experience in creating these personalized experience. So it's just a matter of applying the same principles into B2B as well, because all of it is going back into the same core of our architecture, right? So it's incredibly easy for you to build these personalized, curated experiences for B2B merchants when you're on B2B on Shopify. The second observation is that about 70% of the B2B buyers are millennials and Gen Z folks, right? So who are tech savvy people. They want to adopt digital channels to basically research, purchase, and manage their products and services. Right? Again, Shopify being in the digital commerce space will be able to help them achieve that. Right? So it's just a matter of our merchants realizing and adopting and embracing digital commerce for their B2B operations.
Yep. So something that we've seen, look, I think 2-3 points, right? One is you have Udaan, the likes of Udaan and Offbiz have changed habits, right? And they've been doing that maybe 2018 onwards, right? So I think they've kind of led the way in that sense, but I think now the habits and a retailer typically works with many brands, right? So now it's for the brands to kind of figure out, hey, how am I going to serve the retailer better? So what we've seen with brands that we've done the digital journey on the B2B e-commerce is that the retailers actually see browse that a lot of the high time they spend on the platform is at 1 a.m. post
Okay.
business hours, right? And what they I think they we did this stat for a company. They were, I think, 12% or 13% more per retailer was being, so that with the B2B e-com app, they were buying retailer to retailer, like say same year to last year,
Yeah.
they were buying about 12, 13% more just because they had time to discover more products. So and just because they don't have the noise of the business, active business around them, they can see the push notifications about what's new, what's released, what the schemes are. So it's phenomenal. And it's a disruption just ripe for happening, right? So um, yeah, so I think very excited about how B2B is panning out. I think it's one of those, the financial systems are ready with the India's, the iStack, the platforms are getting ready. I think the ecosystem is also kind of wanting it. So yeah, exciting times on that. So now one of the things that we're solving, and we're solving it because it's a pain point that come up through multiple versions, right, in the ecosystem, was just of store optimization, right? So people build their stores and then they keep building on top of it, right? And that doesn't end, should not end. But what happens is you spoke of technical debt, right? It just keeps accumulating, right? And everyone's just way too busy, just being busy, and they don't solve at the foundational stuff, right? Which, so like how Shopify has gone through a foundational moment for the last maybe year or and a half since the editions changed the name of foundation. I mean, just on that example, I personally think that the brands should all have this
Yeah.
foundational moment as well, right? So, yeah. So it's great for partners like us who come in and we're solving that particular piece for it. It's a kind of, it's a one-time thing. It's a set of fixes and then a set of practices, right? Kind of going forward. Um, but I want to, and this has come up a lot through partner conversations as well as a pain point that brands have faced. But I want to understand, kind of from a Shopify perspective, how do you guys see as optimization? How do you see it? I mean, is it that large a challenge that people invariably start facing as they scale up more and more?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because I think it's there are two broad aspects to it, right? One is when merchants come to you and say, "Hey, I want to optimize my storefront," right? They just most of the time look at the speed score and say, "Hey, it's way too low. It's in the it's in low 30s, and I want to bring it up to 80 or 90, right? Which is fair, but the point is, merchants also don't realize that a higher speed score does not necessarily mean a quicker website or a better user experience, right? So I think we need to address this at the root. Once we kind of have aligned with the merchant that, hey, this is why you want to optimize your website. This is for these reasons. So there could be plenty of reasons, like for SEO purposes, or some merchants might feel that the time taken to load the page, the initial viewport of the page is slower. Or for some merchants, it could be that their mobile users are facing some slowness in the website. So as partners and even us, when we talk to merchants, these are the kind of questions that we need to kind of first ask them to figure out why exactly do they want to optimize their site. Everybody wants to do that, but then the reasons could be different. So once we understand that, is when we can then go and look at, okay, these are the parameters that are outside of the threshold, like those core web vitals that we talked about, right? Like on LCP and all of those. And then look at the corrective measures, right? So this is one aspect of it. The second part of it is that we need to kind of bring some sort of ritual, right? it's not a one-time activity.
Correct.
That's something that brands should realize, because usually there is a marketing team,
Highly innovative, very fast
right,
acting, all that.
right, who randomly keep changing images and videos without knowing the implications that
Right.
it has on the performance of the website. So a lot of education has to go in there, and then you should have these periodic checks, right? We had shared a checklist on store speed
Right.
optimization. We have run several webinars on that. So I think it's very important to inculcate that regimen where you periodically go and assess how things are, the health of the website. There are so many tools available that you can use. The dashboard within Shopify, the web performance dashboard itself is good enough, right? It clearly gives you how these indicators are, and also gives you the corrective measures that you can take to fix those. So things like this, have that going on every now and then, like once in 3 months, to make sure that you just don't forget about it and then come back 6 months later and then realize that, hey, something has gone awfully
Correct.
wrong. Now I have to go and fix it.
Right.
So that's very important.
So, but very, very similar to technical debt, which is just largely
Keep
on accumulating.
That's right. Yeah.
So, got it. So the other thing that we are seeing in the Shopify ecosystem is also the emergence of headless, right? So I think we see more and more of React as well coming into maybe the checkout and so on. So just want to hear your perspective on how should a brand, let's say a team, could be a brand owner, could be the e-commerce head, folks on the brand side, how should they think of headless if they run Shopify?
Yeah, again, question that we come across quite often, because on one hand you have online store that's powered by Shopify Liquid, and then you have the emergence of headless storefront. We have our own recommended stack, which is Hydrogen, along with Oxygen. Right? So usually when we get into the conversation with merchants is when there is a new head of engineering who wants to kind of radically change how they operate, how their development workflows are, right? And we see kind of a bias towards headless, whether it's using Hydrogen or using any other tech stack, right? What I feel is that before getting into the discussion or before deciding whether you need to go the headless route or continue using Liquid, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind, right? While Shopify has acquired Remix, while it's investing on this front, which basically is to give a lot of freedom and flexibility for those large brands who want to truly customize the experience and have these storefronts on different interfaces and surfaces, it doesn't mean that Liquid is taking a backseat, right? So it's really important for us to understand why a merchant is, looking for headless. So when I think of it, I just want to address and bust two myths. So one, we've often heard that going headless will improve the performance of the store, drastically improve the storefront performance, which is actually not true. Liquid storefronts are performant enough when you properly implement that. Right? There's a lot of advantages thanks to how tightly Shopify is integrated with Liquid and have full server control on our side. But of course, when you do the implementation not so well, that's when, like for example, you use Liquid to loop through hundreds of products, right? That's going to cause a lag, right? The rendering is going to take a lot of time there. And you might feel that, I would have achieved this easily on a React framework, right? So things like that. And then there is another misconception that it's going to really help better my SEO, right, going headless. Potentially. But again, we need to figure out how and why, right? For example, let's say a merchant wants to have a completely different URL structure, which Shopify cannot support, right? Or they want to get some information on the front end by querying a third party, which we cannot store and serve from our backend. So these are scenarios where going headless can help you with SEO, right? But generally speaking, when you're using Liquid, there's actually no difference when it comes to SEO. So we need to clearly understand what the merchant's requirements are. If a merchant says, hey, I want to have full control on the server side, I'm running a lot of A/B tests every now and then. I want a complete restructuring of the URL, right? And I want to reuse this headless stack in a non-e-commerce infra. They may be having several other sites or whatever. That is when, yes, it does make sense, right? Whereas if someone just comes to me and says, hey, performance is suboptimal with Liquid, there's always scope for us to analyze and
100%.
then make sure that it's at par. Right?
Yep.
So,
I think that's for sure. I think I don't know if this is as big a problem in other regions as it is in India. This tech debt, which it just keeps on getting accumulated. But we see so much of that in the market, right? So but I completely agree. I think it's in need of kind of having a process to go revisit that every 3 months, and that's the only way that you don't have like a spike and then you start lagging back and so on. It's just SOPs largely that marketing team needs to follow, adhere to, and things would just keep on getting better. One of the things that has been in the news in the Shopify world from the merchant side has been this checkout hijack of Shopify to other checkout options, right? And which has a legit use case. They provide some value, significant value, which is the fact that they can recognize users across websites. So they have a pool of users and they can autofill addresses, enable logins through OTPs, through mobile OTPs, and also assess the likelihood of a person to purchase or if the person is a high risk of the customer, they will disable some COD options and so on, right? So, but for a merchant who's either on it or let's say is not on it, how should they look at Shopify's role / direction in the checkout space going forward?
I think when it comes to these external checkout providers who cater to some of the regional requirements, right? Like in India, for example, we have cash on delivery, which is one of the most popular payment methods. There were gaps earlier, as a result of which checkout was taken outside of Shopify's framework, and then there were external players who were kind of catering to those needs. So with the introduction of checkout extensibility, we've partnered with some of the popular checkout solution providers today, where we've come up with the solutions where they leverage the checkout extensibility APIs to address all of these gaps, right? The ones that you mentioned, the address autofill, assessing the risk level of a buyer, OTP login, all of these use COD, right? So what is happening now is that when merchants use the latest offering of some of these checkout solution providers, they're not taken or redirected to the external checkout solutions, and they are staying within Shopify's checkout, which is what we want as well. Right?
So if I can understand that, so you have partnered with these guys with all the checkout options, and enable those features so they can get all the benefits of that without leaving Shopify's checkout itself.
That's correct.
Yes. Got it. So that's an interesting update, and this is already live with some of the leading.
It's already available with some of the leading checkout solution providers today.
Got it. Cool. So Narayan, I think one of the things. So you spoke about how the deeply coupled aspect of Shopify with Liquid is just relevant, and its relevancy will be ongoing. So from a React perspective, right? So what is, if I'm, let's say, the e-com head of a business, right? I don't have an engineering team. I don't want to go switch into a React only environment, but where can I use React to kind of do some improvements on it? How should I think about it?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially in the scenario where you don't have like a full-fledged development team or you don't have the expertise. Merchants could look at Hydrogen as an option, which is built on top of React framework, right? So with Hydrogen, what we do is we give you pre-built templates, hooks, utilities, and components. So what it does is it reduces the effort of writing a lot of boilerplate code. Meaning we give you these templates that you can reuse. So for example, if you want to reuse the search that Hydrogen provides, you can just use and kind of reference that component while you're building this headless stack. While the rest of the things that you're building as part of your custom storefront, you can use, you can write your own lines of code, right? So what this does is it kind of speeds up the development cycle, right? Instead of having to write everything from scratch. And in terms of React, there are other advantages as well. So for example, there's something called nested routes within React, where we don't load an entire page when we detect a change, right? So we identify which component within a page is actually changing and then go fetch and re-render that component, right? So what this means is that when you navigate from one page to the next, it's going to be super fast and seamless. Similarly, let's say
sorry to interrupt, but that can remain within your storefront, which is, let's say, on Liquid.
No, so we are talking about the React-based storefronts.
So this is only but even components can be brought into a Liquid's.
So there's something called commerce components, which we will talk about later, but it's not really applicable from an Indian context for certain reasons. But yeah, this is majorly on the React part of it. So yeah, you can use that. And there is this server-side rendering, streaming server-side rendering. What it does is that it keeps giving you chunks of data over the network. So what happens is you don't really wait for the entire page or the elements of the entire page to be available before you show that render to the user. So as and when they are available, the page starts loading and the user can also interact with it. So this coupled with what we call as optimistic UI, what it does is when a user performs an action, it feels almost instantaneous. But in the back end, the request goes to the server, gets served, and then you show whatever information you want as a response to that action. So users won't experience lag. So when you click on something, you don't have to really wait for a few milliseconds for it to respond back. It feels almost instantaneous. So these are some of the advantages that React offers that we have incorporated by building Hydrogen on top of the React framework.
Got it. So
Amuli, I want to ask you a question on you being one of our key plus partners, partnering with Shopify for the last couple of years. How do you feel about working with Shopify, working with the partnerships team? And are you optimistic about what's ahead in front of us? And how do you really perceive all of this?
So let me answer that in a couple of ways, right? So I think we've been a partner, plus partner now for 2 years, right? So and the journey's been amazing, right? So I think, but just to give you context, let me just take a step back. So where we align very well with Shopify is this whole unified commerce vision, right? So if you look at us, we have the tech platform which we're building on Shopify, very strongly around B2C and B2B both, right? So we're very, very heavy on B2B use cases and going down that road. We do the performance marketing piece, which helps both of these businesses, these verticals to scale up, right? So there's growth that we provide. And we have the analytical layer with our product Insight, right? So to us, it's part of a digitization, a digital transformation for the brands we work with. And we're just trying to do that unified commerce piece ourselves, right? So just from that mission perspective, we are so aligned that as we're kind of like tied to the hooks and to the hip in that sense, right? So that's why we're also gung-ho about the direction that Shopify takes in B2B, in B2C, which is seamlessly recognizing users in retail, offline, online, and so on. So and the analytics piece, which provides visibility across, right? So that's the reason why we're in the deep partnership. And the partnership itself has been a steep learning curve for us maybe 3 years back, right? That we were new to Shopify in that sense, and we built that team top down and we've scaled it up quite well, right? So, um, and you guys have been phenomenal partners. Just we've been largely open kimono with you guys. You guys have been super helpful with us, with just helping us winning deals and so on. But also as we build stuff on top of Shopify, which is kind of like in the behind the scenes aspect, getting ready for customer demands, which are not customer demands yet. It's been super interesting to just get that support from Shopify's team, not just in India, but also globally as well, right? So that's kind of my take on this, on how partnerships kind of worked out for us.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful because what I also feel personally about partnerships is it thrives when the visions align, right? And it's mutually beneficial to each other. And I think that's clicked really well for
Yep.
the two of us. So I think really looking forward to continuing the partnership in this year and the years to come.
Thanks so much, Sash, for being part of the podcast, and love your insights. Thank you so much. Thank you.